for being here. This is really exciting to do this Python Montreal event at Rodeo FX, and thank you so much, Rodeo, for hosting us.
Oui, c'est ça. Bonjour tout le monde. Bienvenue à Rodeo FX, MP102, c'est ça? Ouais, c'est ça. MP102. Ouais, merci tout le monde d'être là. Malgré le froid et de tout. Vous voyez bien, aujourd'hui, c'est comme ma co-présentatrice qui va parler en anglais, et que je n'ai pas besoin de faire la job difficile. Merci à Rodeo FX de nous avoir popcorn et boisson et tout. Ouais, on est très content d'être là.
So if you want to join the conversation, we have the Slack, and also just a reminder about the code of conduct. We want to make sure that these events are welcoming to everybody and that everybody has a good time.
Ouais, c'est ça, c'est à Montréal-Python, on a le code de conduite on veut que tout le monde s'amuse, mais en respectant les autres. Fait que si vous voyez quelque chose qui n'est pas correct, mais vous pouvez parler avec moi ou Olga.
Oui. Okay. So we're just gonna go over today's. I'll just speak towards the computer. So the agenda for today. So we're gonna just have this opening presentation with myself and Duc. Then Duc is going to talk about Montreal-Python elections. We have a presentation about Rodeo FX from Paul, and Brian is going to follow up with a presentation about how Rodeo FX uses Python, which is super exciting. We're going to have just a 10-minute break, just a quick fire break for everybody. And then we have Noël on contributions to the Python community. Let's contribute. And Andres on FastAPI, and then we're just going to do quick closing words, and then we're all going to go and drink beer, eat popcorn, and have some snacks afterwards. Yay!
C'est ça, c'est comme on a déjà lancé le sprint de traduction dimanche, pas dimanche passé, mais l'autre dimanche. Puis on cherche toujours des contributions. On sait que c'est important la documentation de Python en français. Fait que si vous voulez avoir plus de détails, mais on peut parler après. Samedi qui s'en vient, on va avoir l'atelier d'introduction à la programmation Python. Et aussi l'apprentissage automatique. Encore une fois, si vous voulez plus de détails, on peut toujours parler tantôt. Do you want to recap?
Yeah, so just to recap, if you would like to participate in translating documentation of Python from English to French, please get in touch. We need more people to help. This Saturday, we've got some events coming up. If you want to know more, go and meet up and register. This is the third journée de programmation. And a really exciting PyCon is coming up. If you want any more information about that, that's the website. And Demi is right here in the studio.
Where's that taking place?
It's online, and it's in 5 languages. Portuguese,
English, French, Chinese.
French, Chinese, Portuguese, English, Spanish, English. Okay, and on Meetup, go to Meetup for more information and for registering for future events. Can you have the next slide? And yeah, we just want to thank FJ&R. Thank you so much for sponsoring us. And the snake photograph, with some credits and in French.
Yeah, ouais, c'est ça. On veut juste remercier notre partenaire depuis longue date, là, FJ&R. Ils sont là, ils sont super cool si vous voulez parler avec eux. Juste pour c'est ça, ouais.
Okay. Great. I think let's get started because we did sort of start a little bit late.
Yep.
So our first person, Duc, to you.
Me?
About
Montréal-Python
elections.
Yes, c'est ça.
Okay, go.
C'est ça, parce que là, en fait, c'est comme on cherche, comme vous avez, en décembre, on va prendre une pause, parce que d'habitude, on a besoin d'une pause pour célébrer, peu importe. Puis après ça, en janvier, on va revenir Puis on a l'impression qu'on a moins du monde qui s'implique dans la communauté et tout ça. Fait que en janvier, on va lancer une élection pour essayer de trouver d'autres personnes qui veulent peut-être venir prendre en charge de la communauté. Fait qu'on va vous envoyer toutes ces informations-là. OK, ben là, OK, ben je vais parler en anglais aussi. But also, on January, we're gonna have our elections. So if you want to involve in community, just let's keep in touch, and we will send you on the details later. Ben, je pense que c'est pas mal tout. Fait qu'on va commencer directement dans le... OK.
Happy?
Oui.
Merci.
Merci.
So next, Paul, he's going to present on rodeo. Yannick, could you get his presentation? Perfect.
Okay, and that? Sorry for the delay.
Okay. 1 second, we're just having some technical difficulties. That's to be expected, I think, at a tech event. So I believe it's going to be pretty good. We're going to get to see some visual effects from a visual studio, visual effects studio.
Non, ça c'est en fait c'est juste non, je vais dire une joke, mais ça sert à rien, non, c'est bon. Mais je vais peut-être parler de la pizza, c'est ça, ouais. Il va y avoir la pizza qui s'en vient. Là, on est combien? Je pense, how many are we?
Yeah, I guess we can do a head count a little bit later.
500.
Okay, so I can see the people online. You guys can see the presentation. We're having trouble because we can't see it here, but that's okay. We're gonna get it working soon. Duke, do you have any Python jokes?
Python jokes? Non, Jules est bon avec ça, ouais.
Avez-vous des blagues? Tu as des blagues?
Non, c'est vrai, c'est plus Claudio qui est bon.
Claudio.
Mais oui, il a toujours plein de trucs à raconter, ouais. Hein?
Yeah, I think it's
okay.
Okay. Duke, this is extra. He's a friend of mine.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can take a picture of
We're gonna do
but if you want, you can just sit down.
yeah.
Take a seat anyway. Technical difficulty that we're hoping to solve during the course of the other presentations. Sorry, Paul, do you want, who's next? Brian, can Brian do his presentation? Paul?
We are using the same setup.
Oh, you're using the same? Okay, so no.
Maybe we can head up with Andreas.
Andreas
Andreas
or
or Noël?
Noel, who would like to go? Andreas, would you mind going now? Okay, I think we're gonna change things around now because of this technical difficulty. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have Andreas. Do you mind going now? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
So
cool.
instead, we're gonna have. Thank you so much. We're gonna have Andres on FastAPI. Ooh, exciting things. Get ready. Yes, perfect.
So you're gonna change the slide.
Yeah, I'll
Okay,
change the
cool.
slides.
Okay.
Okay, let's give a
Yeah,
round of
let's go.
applause. Thank you.
Let's see. Ça marche? Hello, how are you feeling? Salut tout le monde. Actually, that's the only word that I can say in French. Bonjour tout le monde. Ça va? C'est bon. My name is Andres, and tonight, actually, that's not the only word. I had another word, which is Vite API. I made it on myself because fast, Vite, you know. My name is Andres, and I'm very glad to be here, very happy for the invitation. And tonight, we're going to be talking about how we can build fast APIs with FastAPI. Senior developer at, should I change that? That's not actually now our work at Shopify. It's working this.
Senior AFL.
Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't change the other one. So I'm a senior developer at AFL. I'm also one of the collaborators on PyCon Latin. That means PyCon conference for Latin America, and Real Python, which is the website where you can find anything about Python. Real Python. And this is my Twitter handle. So joke aside, the agenda for tonight is talking about everything that we can get. My friend, it's working here.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah, I mean, I had it working. Thank you very much. So the agenda for tonight, it's talking about what are the capabilities that we can get with FastAPI. So in summary, FastAPI is a modern, fast, high-performance web framework for building APIs with a Python 3.8 and above. We're gonna see later why we need to have Python 3.8. So if you are using anything under 3.8, unfortunately, you won't be able to use FastAPI. And it's based on standards and Python hints. Very important. That's one, I think one of the most powerful things about FastAPI is based on Python hints. FastAPI is open source. One of the key capabilities of FastAPI is that it has one of the nicer maintainer in the Python community. There's a very active community as well. I think it's also based on the maintainer, and it's open source, as I mentioned. And something good that has a really good documentation, and the documentation can be used in Dart theme. Who doesn't like Dart theme? Everyone like Dart themes. So, but what do we mean with API? So API, in the sense of a word, means application programming interface. So, but in this specific case, we're talking about RESTful APIs. If you don't know what RESTful API is, this is a very quick introduction to what it is. RESTful API, representational state transfer, is a set of rules that the APIs can conform in order to communicate between two services, to make the communication between two services. APIs, in the sense, RESTful APIs have four methods, four important methods, and they have a request, they have a response. The communication between the APIs, it's usually, most likely, made using JSON, although you can use something else. This is in a nutshell. You can definitely go and read more about what RESTful API is. Probably you already know this. Just wanted to bring here, but what brings FastAPI to RESTful APIs? And so talking about the key capabilities, we have many of those. So it's based on standard, meaning that whatever is the standards these days, FastAPI is already bring it. Like JSON schema. These days, for example, the documentation, the way to document the APIs is by using JSON schema. You know it also an OpenAI, which is Swagger. Like the way to let your developers or your consumers of your APIs know about what are the capabilities of the API is by defining the Swagger documents. All through, meaning that for authentication is on top of OAuth, JWT tokens, and everything that we already love and like, and the fact that we can have automatic documentation. So we don't have to do anything. We're gonna see in a moment, and FastAPI is gonna bring the documentation to us. But we already talked about FastAPI and we define what is the API part. But what about the fast? Fast means two things. It's fast to code and fast to run. Fast to code means that with only a few lines of code, we are able to have an API up and running without requiring without requiring any external dependencies. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 line of code, probably 4 lines of code and 1 annotation is a valid API. It's a valid RESTful API that you can make it run from your computer. Code, meaning that if we have let's code to write, that means that we have let's code to maintain. So that's good. It's a winning because maintenance is also can become really hard. Another key capabilities of FastAPI is the fact that is using type hints out of the box. So type hints are basically were introduced in Python 3.6, if I'm not confused. I forgot the PEP where it was discussed. And what it actually does is allow to annotate types to your Python code. That way, our code can have, for example, IntelliSense in the editor, but not only IntelliSense, it will allow us to do validation on compiling time. Python compilation. It's a win for all the parts because by adding the types, we are not only relying on our test to do the validation. We don't need to do testing. Well, actually, we always need to test, but we don't have to do the test only to validate that the type that we are receiving in our method is the correct one. Because with type annotations, we're getting that for free. This is a Python feature. It's not even FastAPI. FastAPI is only using that feature that is being on Python since 3.6 to make FastAPI more reliable and faster to write. But as everything in the world, there are people that they don't like things. And I found this unpopular opinion that these days on the socials is very common, where there was a long thread of people who said that type hints are a mistake. Recently, there was a discussion on X where the creator of Ruby also was saying that the question actually Ruby on Rails, DHH, was saying that types, annotations, and types for these type of languages like Python and Ruby are a mistake. For me, I love the way Python is doing it. You don't do types. Actually, you just annotate, and it's up to you. You're not forced to. So it's a good implementation. So by adding type annotations, we have autocomplete everywhere. We have validation everywhere. We can compile our code, and it will immediately tell us if the value that we are sending is the correct one. It's like I recently saw a presentation where the title said, "Do not like sum apple to apples," like comparing apple to apples, and it was using type hints as a way to let that program know that what the operations that were happening was a certain type. So it's very important having types. If you want to know more about type hints, you have the documentation. You can take a picture. You can I can provide the links later. But more about the type hints, you can go to either those two, which is the default the Python documentation and Real Python topic about type hints. Include the documentation. Let's say you create a project and you start adding your methods on your API. Automatically, all your methods are documented in this Swagger document. This Swagger document is created by default. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to modify anything. Of course, we have the power to do modifications for the information that is being displayed here. But as he said, the documentation is included. So get product, if you want to change what the name says there, you can change it and use something different in the name. And then immediately it's gonna have the name that you display. So it's all by configuration. So by default, it will give you what the standard said, but we're capable of modifying any of the values that are part of the documentation. Who's using Swagger for documentation for APIs? Swagger has become the standard these days. And being able to have one framework like FastAPI that will create the documentation for you out of the box is amazing. Tags. Tags is one of the capabilities that FastAPI provides, where we can organize our endpoints by a tag, by a group, saying that, for example, if one file, usually one file will contain the endpoints for a single entity. Like if you're working with products, you're gonna have the products file, we're gonna have all the products endpoint. But in the case that's not the case, in the case that is not the case, you can still organize it in a way that by using a tag, you can specify what is the part of the what are these APIs combined, saying like this is a Swagger feature, right? And FastAPI is utilizing that feature in order to create a good documentation. All you have to do is specify a tag. And as you see, this is an array, this is a collection, meaning that one endpoint can be part of different tags, can have different tags. And this is nice, because now we don't have to write a documentation by ourselves, and we love writing documentation, right? That's not true. We don't like writing documentation, so it's because FastAPI is doing it for us. So it takes that really hard part of our back. Input validations, another key feature. So we have talked about type hints, we have talked about documentations. Now it's input validations. Thanks to the standard, we are able to specify the type of value that we want. It's both the standard and type hints. And with this type annotations that we're doing here, if we try to pass anything that is not a type that is specified here, there's not even a request. So if you try on Swagger on running this, that is open, just to remember the name, I'm always confused with Open API these days. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, it's Open API. OpenAI, yeah. I was confused. I was driving on the way here. OpenAI. No, it's not OpenAI. Where I was. Okay, documentation, string. So yeah. So thanks to the OpenAPI standards, whatever we specify here is gonna be part of the document that generates this Swagger document, that generates this, and it would not allow. So the same happens if you do a request. If you try to do a request, that request is not even gonna reach the server, the actual endpoint, since the validation is gonna be caught at the beginning, at the header, right before the request. So it's not gonna come here. It's gonna be caught with the gateway that is created with FastAPI, and it's gonna return with the right information saying why it is failing. Because in this case, we're expecting an integer. It will not receive any, it will not forward to the API anything that is not of the type annotation integer. That doesn't look like an integer. So type hints, we can validate everything, not only the types, but also we can specify validations. For example, it's very small. I tried to change this, but I didn't have the time, unfortunately. It's like here, probably you can see that we're specifying that it has to be smaller than 80, but greater than 18. And if you put any value here, immediately you will receive an error. The same, this is not happening on the code. This is just happening on the standard. OpenAPI does that. In FastAPI, using the standards, you only have to do a method, like a regular method in Python. We'll use the standards. We generate this document standard only for you. Important, handling errors. When we're working with APIs, when we're working with the RESTful services, we need to make sure that we're returning the correct set of information to anyone that is calling. That's why it is important to use the HTTP method that are specified for those scenarios. For example, in the case where we are getting a product and the product does not exist, that means that the ID is not in the database. What should we return? We should return, there's a big discussion about, should we return any other error? Should we return to 100 and say internally in the payload that there was not a product ID? Actually, the standard is there, and there's a HTTP ver the HTTP code that it means not found, resource not found. So in this case, by using the FastAPI, all we have to do is throw in a section and specify the type of error that we want to return. By saying 404, what we're returning here is in the JSON, the request is returning a 404 because it was not found. So do this, but please never send a response with 200 and the error in the payload. That's not how it's supposed to be, although there's a lot of people doing that. And we might be wondering, what about database? All the RESTful APIs, all our APIs, we need to connect to a database at some point. We need to get some data. Well, I got good news. It is that FastAPI support all the databases that you can imagine. Who's using a database that is not listed here in production? Which one is that?
Mongo.
Yeah, it supported that. It's not there, but this Mongo being a NoSQL database is FastAPI has one of the best support for NoSQL database with Mongo. So all the SQL databases that are listed here and Mongo NoSQL are supported by FastAPI using an ORM. And FastAPI provides a really good ORM, which is on top on SQL Alchemy, which is the best ORM that you can find, not only in Python, it can be in any language. And what it does, the only thing that it's at on top of SQL Alchemy, you might imagine what it is. Type hints. So it takes SQL Alchemy, that is already great. We already love it. We already know how to use it. And on top of that, it just add type hints. So you can use SQL Alchemy with type annotations. So you're gonna have types from the database to the service and even on the tests, because even the tests are provided by, there's an API that FastAPI provides to handle the tests. Questions. I think I'm going too fast. I like to have any questions so far. Okay, so we're good. All the important characteristics, all the important APIs that you can find on FastAPI is dependency injection. There's a built-in dependency injection framework inside of FastAPI. We can call it capabilities. Security. So as I said, OAuth2 is very simple to include. Well, very simple. Recently, I read this morning. I was going through the documentation that is not as simple as they say, but it's straightforward. There's some configuration that you need to do, but it's straightforward for you to make your APIs being behind on all through authentication. WebSockets. You also can have WebSockets. Open a socket and you can stream data up and down from FastAPI. Same with files. Let's say that you want to have a static file provider. Or a place where you can host your PDF, you can host your whatever the files that you have inside your company, or can be anything. A synchronous operation. I don't know if you noticed in the samples that I was doing that we were using a sync. We don't have to do anything. And FastAPI already wrapped the request in a sync way. And from there, internally, we could use any async, we could do any async operation. And we don't have to be dealing with async IO, doing the change of thread by hand. So FastAPI is going to handle that for us. So everything is wrapped asynchronous, and everything inside here can be async if we desire, if we need. So async is also part of one of the big features, and easy integration with GraphQL. Even though we don't hear people using that much GraphQL these days, there's still the use for GraphQL. You know, like 2 years ago, everyone, wow, GraphQL. Who's using GraphQL in production? And I love GraphQL. I made the comment because 2 years ago, probably everyone in every community, people were talking about GraphQL. It's almost the same that these days with HTMX, that everything is HTMX now on the website, on the communities. So we saw that we are able to build fast because FastAPI is a very minimal, it provides a very minimal API to have something functioning. We saw that FastAPI help us with the documentation, and we saw that FastAPI help us with handling errors and dealing with types. But okay, that means that we're gonna be able to build fast. But what are we gonna do with the time that we have left? Who guess? What should we do?
Eat pizza.
Eat pizza, right? Oh no, eating pizza every day, you're gonna be really bad. So I ask you probably this: if you have access to ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT, what should we do? Probably they have the answer. But in the meantime, I have a few suggestions for you. Oh, okay, there it is. So tests, why not? Let's add some tests to the API, meaning that we're gonna be able to, we should be testing not only unit test our methods, internal function, but also testing the APIs itself. FastAPI provides an API to do the test. It uses HTTPX as a library and use PyTest as the testing library in order to run the test. So all this is a valid test. Although it's gonna fail because it said Kung Fu, and this is not Kung Fu. This is a valid test that will test the method that we saw initially at the presentation. It's gonna mount the API. It's gonna call the method. It's gonna get the response, and it's gonna check on the JSON if you want to validate that the value is the value that you were expecting. So if you have JSON that you're expecting, you can compare JSON to JSON, and it's gonna assert that the value that you're receiving is the one that you're expecting. So that way we can test, and all that is also included into FastAPI. Another suggestion, I don't know the suggestion, but I don't know why it's not on the slide. But in the meantime, okay, we say fast to code, but what about fast to run? Well, right now, FastAPI is one of the fastest web frameworks in the Python ecosystem. Asterisk. In the Python ecosystem. But it's compared with other frameworks outside of Python. There's this list that I got it was like probably 4 months ago. I didn't update it this morning, where FastAPI was on top of some others, was neck to neck with other frameworks that are not in the Python ecosystem. This is all Python, right? So this is UV current, this is just an ICTP. The way they use this graphic is confusing because from those, the only one that you might probably know as a framework is FastAPI. Scarlett. FastAPI is on top of Scarlett, which is another framework. So if you have been following me until now, FastAPI is using everything that's been, most of the things that's been around for Python, and you just combine it as a way to make easier for users to write code and faster for users to run once the applications are deployed. I say summary, but also has space for questions. I would say, give it a try to FastAPI. Fortunately, I didn't have my computer here. I wanted to always do a demo, really quick one. but because of the way it is created, the computer's over there. But after this, we're gonna be aside. If you want to see more, I can create a project, I can run it, I can show you all the things that all the cool things that FastAPI have to provide. Give it a try. It's open source. You have nothing to lose. FastAPI has a very active community, and just this morning, I say we as if I work at FastAPI. FastAPI has 6. This is the maintainer, Sebastian Ramirez, Tiangolo, also known in the communities. So we basically, this is what it said. They are now the second more used web framework in Python, just behind Django. So they surpassed Flask, who was the second most used framework for very long. And this is amazing, because what it means is that the community is very active, and there's a lot of people giving it a try. So give it a try, and the communities will be more than welcome to receive your suggestion or anything that you have to say about the framework. If you want to know more about FastAPI, of course, the documentation are amazing. I would say they're one of the best documentation that you can find for any framework, regardless Python, JavaScript, or whatever. And they support that mode. And if you want to also, there's in realpython.com, you can find a free tutorial and there's also a video course that you can see like FastAPI in action with more features. I also did a presentation, I don't know what record probably was, adding authentication using OAuth 2 and doing more testing. That's all I have for today. This is what ChatGPT answered for the questions that I asked earlier. Basically, do more code review, documentation, testing, security, optimization. So use wisely the time that you have left in your development work, and thank you very much.
Does anybody have questions? Let's check maybe the questions online. Yes.
What's the closest analog for Ruby?
Do you mind
Closest one.
repeating the question?
What's the closest?
The closest analog for Ruby. For Ruby implementations, is there an analog? Is there something that's similar?
Oh, for Ruby, analog to this? No, I don't know.
No.
No, I don't know. Because I know the only thing that there are two frameworks for Ruby. It's Ruby on Rails, but there was another one that was very light and very fast, but I don't remember the name now. I know because I have a friend of mine. He was always very Rubyist, and he always mentioned that other framework. But
So that's similar to FastAPI?
Yeah.
It is?
I will find the name in a moment.
We'll post it on the chat.
Yeah.
But please don't use Ruby.
Any other questions?
Any other question? Can be later. Well,
Yeah, does this support like, are you familiar with Django REST framework? They
Yeah.
also have views where you kind of define a API by giving it a model, and it will figure out all the different methods. Does it support something like that?
I don't know.
No?
Yeah, and I have used that with Django REST framework, but I'm not sure.
I would use Django Ninja, because Django Ninja borrows some things from FastAPI, and it's more integrated with Django.
Yeah, something important is that even that was during a conversation that I had with the one main maintainer, with the creator, is that FastAPI was meant for APIs. Even though you can use Ninja templates and do web HTML, like self HTML like Django, you won't get the main benefits of FastAPI comes when you are serving JSON and RESTful APIs. So by serving HTML documents, you're gonna be comparing with, it's gonna be very similar to what you get with Django or any other web framework.
Sure. Okay.
But for APIs, I would say is the best.
Are there any questions online? Yannick, did anybody post anything?
I do not see any questions online. I think we're good to move on.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, super. Any other questions here? No? Okay, let's give a round of applause. Thank you so much. Okay, so shifting things around. Next, we have Noël. Yes, he's going to be presenting on the call for contributions in French.
Yes.
En français.
Bonsoir à tous. C'est le nom de ma compagnie. On fait du développement logiciel. C'est les initiales. On s'est battu pour le nom pendant 2-3 mois, donc ça sert à rien de toute façon. On dépend des initiales. Et c'est bien resté avec nous.
So, in true spirit, we have some more technical difficulties. Just one moment. We'll get it all sorted out. In the meantime, you need the slides, right?
It would be better.
Yeah? Okay.
We can go without.
We can talk a little bit.
We can go without. It's not a problem.
You can start? Okay. We'll start without the slides and then I'll come on in a little bit.
On va essayer sur les slides. Donc, deux textes. L'intérêt, c'était juste de faire une présentation rapide, puisqu'on m'avait demandé de venir ici pour présenter un petit peu la contribution. Donc, c'est pas tant pour faire une conférence super longue. Il y a eu un report de GitHub qui a été fait chaque année. Je ne sais pas si vous suivez un petit peu, c'est le Octoverse, je crois, leur nom, qui suivent chaque année. En 2022, le Canada est tombé 10e contributeur au niveau mondial, au niveau de l'Internet. On se fait avoir par pas mal de pays, notamment d'Asie, qui commencent à se développer de manière folle, comme l'Inde et d'autres pays. En 2023, le Canada est encore là en 10e position. On est encore dans le top 10. Bientôt, on va disparaître. Il y a déjà des estimations. Le Canada va passer normalement 11e, 12e, 13e très très rapidement, si ça ne bouge pas de manière différente. Au-delà de ça, l'Octoverse a une autre statistique qui est très intéressante, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, contrairement il y a encore quelques années seulement, on parle de 3-4 ans, 50% des contributeurs, leur première contribution à l'open source se passe sur des gros logiciels. Donc on parle de Next.js notamment, de React, etc. C'est plus comme avant où généralement ils contribuaient avec leurs collègues de classe à un petit package qu'on maintenait, puis qu'ils mettaient sur PyPy, puis ils maintenaient ça comme ils pouvaient les week-ends, puis petit à petit on finit un jour sur Chrome peut-être. Aujourd'hui, ils commencent tout de suite par des grosses compagnies parce que généralement, ils vont directement travailler sur des frameworks comme là, par exemple, on a FastAPI. Tout de suite, ça grossit, ça attire plein de contributeurs, même jeunes, parce qu'ils ont beaucoup d'outils pour faciliter ça. Et finalement, les petits packages commencent à mourir. Et ça pose plein de problèmes. Et on connaît tous un petit peu le XKDC, que je ne peux pas présenter, qui a une image très connue. C'est une image très connue où on voit comme un empilement de blocs, et puis il y a un petit pilier en bas. Et au-dessus, c'est marqué comme l'Internet mondial des grosses compagnies, Big Tech, OpenAI, etc. Puis il y a le tout petit pilier qui fait tenir une branche, puis c'est marqué un gars qui n'a jamais été reversé depuis 2023 au fin fond du Nebraska et qui maintient un core package. Et c'est un petit peu ça qu'on vit ces dernières années dans certains packages. Notamment, je ne sais pas si vous avez suivi Core.js, qui est du côté de JavaScript. Je ne sais pas si certains connaissent Core.js. Il y en a un. Core.js, c'est à peu près ce qui fait tenir l'Internet mondial aujourd'hui. À peu près 75% des 1000 plus gros sites au monde, juste pour donner une idée, utilisent Core.js. Dans l'infrastructure mondiale, l'Internet qu'on connaît ne pourrait pas exister sans le package Core.js. Puis c'est maintenu par une personne au fin fond de la Russie qui maintient ça depuis à peu près, je crois, 10-15 ans, quelque chose comme ça, qui du coup maintient ça gratuitement, qui a demandé des financements, qui a même profité quand NPM, l'équivalent de PyPy chez JavaScript, a mis des systèmes pour pouvoir demander des efforts de contribution au moment où vous faites votre pip install, ça pop ça sur NPM. Il a demandé ça, puis il a surtout eu du hating en lui disant que c'était n'importe quoi, qu'il était juste en train de demander de la monnaie à n'importe qui, que ça emmerdait parce que ça faisait sauter les systèmes de CI/CD, parce que ça montait des trucs en plus, c'était pas la bonne place. Cette personne a été tellement désespérée qu'elle a arrêté Core.js pendant seulement quelques jours. Et il y a des millions de personnes qui ont été impactées. Puis cette personne a ensuite réagi en disant bah, c'est pas grave, je vais remettre le package en ligne maintenant que vous avez compris que j'existe. Puis bonjour à tous, voici un article de blog qui explique mes 10 dernières années. Puis cette personne a fait de la prison pour des problèmes personnels, il y avait un accident de voiture, enfin, toute une histoire. Mais du coup, personne n'est jamais venu contribuer à ce package. Alors qu'aujourd'hui, tous ensemble dans cette salle, on a besoin de ce package. Sans ça, on ne pourrait pas vivre, surtout on ne pourrait pas travailler, on ne pourrait pas en faire notre métier. Donc l'idée, c'est de se dire comment, en 2023, on peut arriver, nous s'entendre, dans cette salle, n'importe où, à contribuer à des petits packages. Parce que des choses comme FastAPI, Django, etc., c'est bien sympa, mais ça ne peut pas rouler sans toutes ces petites dépendances et le petit plugin Django qui gère ta sécurité, qui est maintenu par 2 gars au fin fond du Canada. Pas du tout. Donc l'idée, c'était ça. Il y a une organisation, du coup, je voulais vous présenter aujourd'hui, qui s'appelle Jazz Band. Puis Jazz Band, c'est comme un band de jazz attaché. C'est une organisation GitHub qui a une façon de fonctionner que j'aime assez bien. En fait, l'idée, c'est juste que vous allez sur leur GitHub, vous vous inscrivez, enfin, ils ont un site web, jazzband.co, si je ne dis pas de bêtises. Vous allez dessus, vous vous inscrivez. En fait, vous allez juste rejoindre l'organisation. Vous allez faire partie d'une communauté qui fait déjà 1683 membres en date il y a 2-3 jours. Et il y a juste un Roadies. Les Roadies, c'est censé être une équipe à la base, pas censé en avoir qu'un, qui est censé faire justement la maintenance à plus grande échelle, vraiment la facilitation pour les autres contributeurs qui ont moins de temps. Aujourd'hui, le seul Roadies qui est encore là, c'est le fondateur. Du coup, encore une fois, on se retrouve dans la question de trouver des gens qui sont prêts à mettre un petit peu de leur temps, pas forcément toute leur semaine, mais un jour par mois, un jour tous les 2 mois, même juste un week-end de temps en temps, pour aller aider la communauté à maintenir ses packages. Jazzband, aujourd'hui, ça aide énormément de Django. Donc, n'importe qui fait du web en Python doit sûrement tourner autour. Il y a plein de packages que vous devez sûrement utiliser qui sont maintenus aujourd'hui par Jazzband. On parle de 73 repos, je crois, qui sont maintenus officiellement et qui sont entièrement maintenus par la communauté. Quand vous rejoignez cette organisation, vous avez automatiquement des droits d'écriture. Vous pouvez aussi faire des releases, etc. Puis vous êtes dans une communauté. Donc vous-même, si vous avez un package que vous maintenez peut-être le week-end, c'est comme moi, il y en a un que je maintiens avec l'entreprise, on n'a jamais le temps, puis on fait ça quand on peut, puis on est toujours en retard. Vous pouvez le mettre dans Jazzband, puis la communauté va venir vous aider à le maintenir. Il y a d'autres personnes dans les 1683 personnes qui peuvent même être super intéressées par l'idée, qui aiment vraiment ce que vous faites, puis qui sont peut-être d'autres compétences logicielles adaptées, qui vont venir vous aider avec ça, et qui peuvent devenir core member pour aller justement maintenir aussi. C'est pas long. Ils vont pouvoir justement choisir un petit peu la politique et comment ça va se passer, etc. Pourquoi c'est comme ça? I don't know. It was a PDF when it was in the correct order. It's not important.
Pas grave, on va dire en fait verticalement.
Ah, ok, je peux juste vous retrouver. Si vous savez pencher votre téléphone, il y a quelques chiffres qui étaient peut-être intéressants. Ouais, ça a 73 projets, 1683 membres. Ils sont parrainés officiellement par la Python Software Foundation. Ils sont parrainés fiscalement par la Python Software Foundation. Donc aussi, si vous n'avez pas de temps, vous pouvez toujours aussi donner votre argent. Vous pouvez aider vraiment à maintenir directement. Ça peut justement aider sur du temps humain qui peut passer en arrière. Notamment, je suis allé regarder ceux qui avaient le plus d'étoiles et de forks sur les packages qui maintiennent. Il y a le Django Debug Toolbar. Pour ceux qui font du Django et qui le maintiennent en production, c'est un outil qui est très 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 connu, très utilisé. C'est eux qui le maintiennent officiellement. Il y a le pip tool qui permet à beaucoup d'entre nous aussi de maintenir vos packages pip à jour, parce qu'un requirement.txt c'est sympa, mais ça ne se met pas beaucoup à jour tout seul. Il y a aussi le Django REST Framework Simple JWT, qui est très utilisé aussi pour tout ce qui est Ops. Donc tout ça, c'est maintenu par le Jazzband, puis il y en a 73 au total, vous pouvez aller y jeter un œil. Il y a GeoJSON aussi, qui est très utilisé en Python. Et vous avez un QR code si vous avez envie d'aller y jeter un œil. Puis ça s'arrête là.
Do it again, because we have this like
Il y a des questions là.
Est-ce qu'il y a des questions? Are there any questions?
Je voulais juste savoir les contributions, généralement, est-ce que si tu arrives et que tu n'as pas beaucoup d'expérience, est-ce que tu as du soutien?
Alors, ils sont très ouverts. C'est une organisation GitHub. C'est ça la grosse différence des autres communautés. C'est qu'ils sont beaucoup plus simples à rejoindre si vous avez l'habitude d'utiliser GitHub. Aujourd'hui, n'importe quel étudiant, n'importe quelle personne qui commence, sait utiliser GitHub. Donc, vous avez tous les repos sur leur site, mais vous pouvez aussi, donc là, il n'y a pas un lien, vous pouvez ensuite balader sur les repos. Vous allez trouver des issues et des pull requests. Mais sur leur site, vous pouvez aussi retrouver directement toute la liste. À partir de ces issues-là, vous pouvez juste regarder. Généralement, elles sont taguées. Puis vous pouvez demander de l'aide, vous pouvez participer. Les autres, c'est juste des gens comme vous. Il n'y a personne qui est payé, qui est maintenu dans un corps mainteneur, etc. C'est que des petits projets qui n'ont pas encore assez de communauté pour survivre. C'est-à-dire que Django, le but, c'est pas qu'il aille sur le jazz band d'un jour. Django, il a déjà sa communauté, FastAPI aussi, etc. L'idée, c'est vraiment plus les petits packages qui généralement sont des plugins, des améliorations, des middleware ou des points d'amélioration qui sont utilisés même par ces gros frameworks, mais qui n'ont pas de communauté parce que c'est des choses qui ne demandent pas beaucoup de maintenance et qu'on maintient à jour juste pour la sécurité de temps en temps, ou qui sont des choses qui sont de petite envergure. Donc tu vas dessus, tu regardes les issues, tu parles avec eux. Généralement, ils sont super abordables.
Other questions? No? Okay, merci. So now we'll have a little break. Maintenant, une pause. And afterwards, we'll do some other things. Please feel free to go out and have a drink. We'll be back in 10 minutes. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Oh no, my computer's running. Hi, hi Yannick, can you hear us?
I can hear you, but I do not see the current set of slides. It's not on StreamYard.
Ah, okay. Can you connect us to StreamYard? Did Paul?
Yes.
Paul? Could you connect us to StreamYard? The presentation.
We're not connected?
I'm gonna sort it out. Okay. I think I'm gonna have to unplug this.
We didn't leave the connection. Okay, I'm gonna.
Sorry, do you have a phone?
My phone's there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm old.
I
I'm
just
sorry.
I just need a light. So could you help me? Do you mind just
Yep,
shining?
by all means.
Can you just shine? I just need to plug this in.
This is good.
You can,
just like, my gas is
There we go. Thanks so much.
No worries at all.
That's not
okay, are we going to StreamYard, Yannick?
That looks perfect from here.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, we're going to restart. So let's please all welcome Brian from Rodeo FX. He's going to tell us all about Python at Rodeo.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming and welcome to Rodeo. And today we'll be going through a presentation about how a glimpse into the VFX pipeline. All right, let's get started. Today we'll be going over the day-to-day routine of an artist in a VFX company and the various challenges that we face as we developers face. The building blocks that we've built to be that we use to face these challenges, and Dicry, or automated pipeline that leverages all these building blocks to be able to then use to face these challenges. All right, let's start with the VFX world, and let's start with how the movie is spoiled to us. From the clients, first divides the movie into shots and then sequence. A shot is a continuous footage between two edits, while a sequence is a series of shots that is grouped by their
Story?
No, by their unity and location. There we go. I've done it. The shot, each shot has a plate associated to it, which we use as a reference when we do our work. All right. The routine. Let's go on how the workflow of the artist. The artist will begin by opening their DCC, which is a digital content creation. These are software that is used for creating content, such as Nuke, Maya, and Photoshop. They will then find the appropriate data, input data, and import it into their DCC. They will start doing their creative work and iterate over and over until they're satisfied with the results. And then from there, it goes through a reviewing process. And afterwards, if we're good, it goes down the stream to the next department. Or if not, we continue iterating over it. We'll go over a simple example of our pipeline. What is degrading? Degrading is the process of removing artifacts that is created by when we film with a camera. There's grains that's left over, and when we inject CG elements, sometimes the grain can be difficult to deal with and makes our CG element pop. For example, this is a picture of my beautiful dog, Aiko, and before. The picture on the left is the one where there's grain, and the one on the right is the one without grain. Can't really see much. Let's try to see if we can zoom in. Here is the zoom in, Still kind of blurry. On the left is still the one that's grained, and on the right is the one that's degrained. Maybe what we can do is subtract the differences in pixel. Much better. I did increase the gain, so technically it's not as visible, but we can clearly see that with this type of artifact, if we put a CG element into the plate, this, for example, like the Hulk would just pop out. And it's very noticeable, believe it or not. All right. Let's start with the degraining process. So tweak any parameters that is needed, render out the image, which will render out the degrain plates, and then from there they'll review and make sure everything is good to go for the next department. So far, fairly simple, not too complicated, but this is only the reality if we use degrain as an example. In our line of work, there's a lot of departments. There's modelers, which create the geometry. There's animators, which sets the skeleton on the geometry, so then afterwards the animators are able to animate them. And then there's the compositors, which puts the CG elements into the plate for it to be afterwards cleaned up. And there's much more. All of those departments have a DCC, have specific suite of DCCs. So it could be just one for compositing. They're just using Nuke to do the 2D imaging, but it could be something along the lines of animation, where they're using Maya and then rendering out with lighting, it's with Houdini and so on. We can also tell that there's constant iteration and different outputs, making it difficult to deal with. Each department is responsible with reviewing their own work, and the reviewing system, the reviewing step could be different depending on department. So the workflow is not constant between departments because the DCCs behave differently and because the department have different set of suits. Below right here is an icon of all of the DCCs that we work with in our pipeline. It's a lot of things we just went over. Maybe a diagram might help. You know what? Maybe not. maybe this might not be helpful. But regardless, the main point to take from here is that we have lots of departments, and based on each department, there is not a linear progression of data between one. And we can see that the data can be passed between multiple departments, and other departments may depend on outputs from lots of different departments. So there's lots of juggle and lots to deal with, which makes our life harder to do. All right, let's go over our challenges. Our challenges are heterogeneous workflow. Like I stated before, we have different DCCs, different ways of working. There's artists that are focused on modeling. There's other ones that are focused on Nuke, on compositing, rigging, and so on. So lots of workflows, and it's hard to conform and make sure that everything works as smoothly as it can. We have large sets of data of dependencies. To be able to have an environment that is able to load all of these DCCs with all their dependencies is complicated and hard to manage. And we have complex data. So the data between departments may not be, between DCCs and departments may not be compatible. And there's usually needs to pre-process the data or do post-process to ensure that it's compatible between one another. And I don't think this one's a surprise. We're a fast-paced environment. Deadlines are tight, and we want to make sure that we're able to deliver the arts at the standard of our clients. All right. So now let's go over our building blocks. These are the tools that us developers, and we're here to use to face these challenges. Python. I heard this is a Python conference, right? Yeah. Yay, good. So Python is great. all of the DCCs, sorry, most of the DCCs that we use has a Python API that allows us to create Python plugins, which is fantastic. Python is simple to use and has an extensive amount of libraries that we can leverage to make sure that we're able to prototype, create tools at the space of the environment. Let's go back to our trusty Duc Nguyen example. Right here, this is a Nuke template. And what we've done is that we've created tools that allows us to easily build templates. So we have a loader, which is the one on the top. The loader behaves as a factory that is able to, based on parameters and the context, able to load data from a click of a button. We have below the yellow node, which is a write RDO node. And it's an exporter node that behaves also like an exporter based on the context and the parameters and the tokens. It is able to export out the data that we want in the format that we like. And also we're able to create, we also have tools to create templates where they're able to load templates and build them and so on. So this makes our workflow, this conforms our workflow within Nuke for all departments. So any departments that use Nuke, they're able to use this templating system, and all our tools is loaded up within Nuke. So it makes it easier for us to customize the way we want to work and make sure that everyone follows these guidelines. Unfortunately, by doing this and making all these plugins, we've added more dependencies to our environment, right? Plus the DCCs and all the dependencies. So our second building block is Res. Res is a package management software that is able to create a container with all of the environments based on a package repository. So once you load up an environment, it's able to reference in our repository all of the packages that is required to run a specific environment. So if you want to run Nuke 13, Nuke 13 uses Python 3. If you make a REST package of Nuke 13, you'll be able to specify the dependencies. And if we want to load up different plugins, such as our templating tools, they should be able to load it up by just launching Nuke with the REST package. So far, so good. Let's go on to our third building block, which is ShawGrid. ShawGrid is a production tracking, scheduling, and asset management. We mainly we use it for lots of stuff, but on the pipeline side, we use it mainly for an asset database. What's great about ShawGrid is that it provides a Python API. Yes, Python. So what's great about this is that now we're able to interact with our database using just one language, Python, and we can plug that into all of our Python plugins. So our loaders from earlier, and they're able to load and do a shotgun query to pick up the ingested plate that we want into the template. When we export, it'll create a shotgun entry with the exported render, and everything is tracked that way. This also includes our templates, which are also tracked within ShawGrid. Last but not least, our last brick, which we have not covered yet, is a big challenge that we have is that we've conformed the workflow within the DCCs. Artists are able to template all their stuff, being able to use loaders, able to grab data from ShawGrid, but we're still, unfortunately, at the mercy of rendering. Rendering locally takes a lot of time. And for an example, Interstellar, the black hole, took about 100 hours to render just one frame. Yeah. So what we've done is that we've set up a render farm that is managed with Tractor, which is a web interface that allows us to see all this. And with this, we're able to then configure our environment. And with sorry. There we go. With the render farm, if you guys don't know, it is a distributed computing. So we're able to distribute our renders, and instead of just doing the renders on one machine, we're able to have multiple machines do the process. Here's an example of our degrain. Well, it's still live stream. But what we did see was an example of our degraining render, and each of those blocks that we saw, imagine it, imagine it, is a blade on our render farm. Oh. Woo!
Not quite.
Clicker doesn't work though. Oh, there it is. Okay. This is a simple job structure. Each of these tasks or blades that are running a chunk of the render. For anyone who's curious, this is a more complicated task tree where we're running Maya and then Katana to render our animation process. All right, with all the building blocks, what's next? Let's talk about our automation pipeline, and no, not the drink, daiquiri. Now, with all those building blocks that we covered, we should be fine, right? We're able to track the data that comes in and out. We have our workflow mostly conformed with the tools and plugins that is available. Our dependencies are then tracked and loaded correctly when we open up a DCC. Well, let's go back again to our degrain example. This is working fine for one shot. Now the artist needs to open up again for the second shot, dispatch it, then the third, then the fourth, all the way to, let's say, 20. Takes a lot of time, very redundant, right? And it doesn't make a lot of sense because the grain between shots is technically the same if it's within the same sequence because it's filmed by the same camera. So most of the time, there is not much of a difference. Another example why we may need automation is what if we go through a certain part of the pipeline. Let's say we've degrained our plate. The plate looks good. It's been approved throughout the pipeline. And then we get to the final step of the compositing work. And we notice that the grain right there is not as clean. Well, what would happen with just our building blocks is that the artist responsible for degraining the plate would need to reopen the template, tweak it, reprocess it. Then afterwards, it would need the downstream department would need to reopen their templates, replace, and then re-render, and then so on, all the way down back. Seems tedious. Well, here's Daiquiri to save the day. Daiquiri is our is a graph execution software based off a Python library called TaskFlow by OpenStack. The feature is that we're able to model these tasks, and these tasks are run a specific Python process. We're able to then build custom workflows with these tasks as graphs and then execute them, which is great. What we've done now is that right here, this example is our update and render nuke. So this graph will open nuke, load it to the latest templates or the template that best fits the context, depending on the options. We'll import all of the data that is needed to do the degraining process, and then we'll export out the degrain and then create an entry in ShotGrid for the degrain. Sounds familiar, right? All right. Now we have a system that is able to execute the workflow, right? We're able to re-execute the artist workflow. Everything's good. It doesn't include the creative work, but we're able to, the creative work is when the template is done and then all the tweaks is done. From there, we're just able to execute. But how do we execute this? Well, we've created a CLI or a command line interface called dispatch graph that is able to source the environment that the artist is in, and then from there able to pick the best execution graph for the job and the context and the options, and then batch dispatch. So you'll be able to say, oh, for SHA 1, 2, 3 all the way to 20, let me dispatch update and render nuke, and then boom, with the dgrain, and then from there, it is all executed and everything. There are a few problems. As a command line interface, there are the common issues when an artist executes this is that they may have made a mistake with the options, or they may have the missing options. Therefore, it's problematic if you send this and it just starts doing all the batching and uses resources where we wouldn't need to. Here as well is that the dispatch graph will also convert the graph into task trees and then send them on the render farm. So the graph that we saw earlier, it can be converted into a task tree on Tractor, and then we can use the power of parallel computing when we can to do rendering. So this will do all the steps that we've described by different blades and chain all this together. So this is great. We're able to submit a bunch of jobs, everything's good. But like I said earlier, with the command line tool, it's possible that there might be some errors. Well, let's bring our last automation tool, Daikiri Automate. Pun intended. Yeah, if you guys Daikiri Automate. Yeah, we like Daikiri Automate video. With the help of ShawGrid, we have a web interface that is able to show the asset database and
imagine.
Well, imagine that, like, everything there. So the asset management, we have a web interface that is able to show each asset and everything that's part of the DB with the parameters and its status and all that. There it is. And what we've done is that it also allows us to extend the schema of the asset database to create custom entities. And by doing this, we've realized that maybe it could be a good idea to create a custom entity that reflects the dispatch graph. So you'll be able to set up a configuration of your command and then set up certain parameters that is relevant for dispatching automation. Now, but all right, that's cool. We're able to configure all this per project, per sequence and context. All that's cool. But how do we execute this? Well, with the web interface, artists are able to view assets that they've rendered or that they've added to ShawGrid. They have a quick time that shows them the asset and the way it's rendered. And they also have in the green bar a status that are able to give the state of the working state of the asset. So they could set it to approve or needs work and so on. This right there is then passed to the event system of ShawGrid, which if we have let's say a daemon listening, we can get the stream. Then from there, the daemon uses Python to they will do a Python query for a dispatch graph, and then from there we're able to just dispatch the job to the farm based on just a flip of a status. This is a very common workflow. Everybody that's done approving wants to submit another process to the farm to make sure that to do further reviewing and things along the lines. And for our example, the auto degrade. Every time we ingest a plate, we're then able to then review it. If the plate that was ingested is good, then we approve it, and upon approval, we're able to then dispatch an auto degrade. So all the process that we've done, once we approve and ingest for a given context, and if we specify the type of status flip, so the approval, we're able to specify the automation that we want to send. And right here is we run an update and run a nuke using a template degrain. And from there, that's it. Thank you. Thank you for keeping up. I'm not the best public speaker, but I'm happy I did this.
No, that was really great. Thank you so much,
Perfect.
Brian. Does anybody have any questions? No, no questions?
Are these the movies that
This is, these are all movies that our company's worked on. Yeah.
I have a question. Do you guys then use a ShotGrid to track your Python sort of code and pipeline issues
Yes.
as well?
Yes, we actually, another part is that we have, using Res, we have, basically we can define, for example, all the packages that we want to load up within, within a new entity that we've created called Res Package List. So you run a shot, it loads up all the packages that we want for that shot and that application. Yeah.
Cool. Yes. At the back. Oh, okay, at the front.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering how your degrading process is the entire process run. See the auto degrading in a container, and how do you scale it to what do you use from the operational?
So
so let's just repeat the question. So how do you use the auto degrading process, and is it operational?
The way it works is that we're leveraging Res to be able to grab all the dependencies that we want. So from there, all those dependencies are then set on shot, on shows, on the context that we want. Therefore, it is entirely based on the context of where the artists work. And on these configurations on the auto degrain is then added on a show basis. So these configurations are based on the show, and we can either always have the auto degrain or not at all. And we scale it by submitting this to the farm. And as long as we have machines, we're able to process everything.
What's the performance decrement or differential between the auto degrain and the ordinary?
The performance gain, or
yes,
the performance gain is from the whole entire process. It would take 20 minutes to set up the template, open up everything, and all that stuff. And on the farm, it only takes about 4 minutes.
That's substantial.
Yeah, and this is just batch dispatch. So imagine for the first example with the 20 shots, they would need to do 20 minutes for the first shot, 20 minutes for the second, third, fourth, and then just manually 3 hours of work.
Manually, what does that mean?
If you dispatch without the graphing, without the automation and everything, they would need to run dispatch. Open the Nuke application, open up Nuke, and then submit a job on the farm, and then open up Nuke again for different contexts, and then submit. Does that answer?
Yes, and the GPU logic is built into Res, or how?
The GPU logic is based on the DCC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
So my question is more connected to that one. So Rex is like the dependencies.
Yes.
So it's like a pip with extracts.
No, it's a little bit different. So
maybe that's
yes, it's deeper. You're able to there's a thing called there's a package.py for each packages, and you're able to list dependencies that is more than just Python. It could be C++ based for building and all that stuff. So you're able to do more than just Python packages management. And it is entirely based on what you define. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it makes sense. And so is this open source, right?
Yes, it's open source, correct.
But it treated Docker environment as well. That's what we said before.
Sorry, it doesn't. We don't use Docker for the automation process. No.
Okay, so you can use this technology with any
So
system that you want.
yeah, we didn't use Docker because at the time the pipeline was built with Res because of a lot of our graphical interface, and I believe I'm not the biggest expert with Dockers, but I believe that there was issues in the past with graphical stuff. And not just that, using our Res package list, we're able to as well and not need to create images So we're just able to just edit the list, because creating images for each shot, for each shows and each sequence and everything could be lots to maintain. Yeah.
Any other questions?
How many shots do you use to produce or go through the facility in like a week or a day? Or...
I can tell.
It's hard to say in a week. You see, we go through a lot of shows, and we're basically working on maybe 12 to 15 shows in parallel at any given time. So, and any given show can be 50 shots to 900 shots, 1,000 shots.
Yeah, it's very variable.
It's very variable. So, but we studied in a slide earlier the render farm process is around 1.5 million hours of computation every month. That's the amount of computation we're doing to just process all the data that's going for so the renders, the geometry generation, any kind of iteration we're doing.
Plutôt des indépendants, des grandes boîtes. Vos clients sont plutôt des indépendants, des grandes boîtes.
Big studios.
Yes.
So with your setup of render farm, do you only have the local plates, or are you using some other data centers?
We do a lot locally, but we also do cloud rendering as well with Azure and all that stuff. Yeah.
Any other questions? Other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much. That was very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and let me just check. There's no questions online, right, Yannick? I assume not. Okay, fantastic. In that case, I think we've almost finished with the presentations. We just have one last presentation by Paul. And this is a very much visual, exciting presentation. With it's very exciting, but very echoey. Okay. Paul has just left the building. So I guess he really does not want to. He doesn't want to do that. Oh no, he's back.
I need my colleague just to make sure we have the right slide.
Okay. In case you're showing like some a secret movie, we might get to see something. Okay. Great. So thank you so much. I'm very excited.
So before we start, for the people who are online, we're gonna have some sound inside the cinema just because we're gonna watch some reels of what we are doing. So the hearing might not be perfect, but I apologize, but that's the best that we can do, just to make sure that everybody here can hear perfectly our demo reel. So, okay, perfect. So first of all, thank you everybody for being there. The first time that RodeoFX is doing, I would say, a technological event for the industry. So that's we are really happy to welcome you here. Okay. So what I'm going to show you is just a basic presentation of Rodeo. It's going to be 10 minutes plus a few demo reels about what we are doing, and also we just spoke about how much Python is used at Rodeo, so that you can really see what we are really producing and doing after this work, all of this work. No, okay. So first of all, we're going to show you our master showreel of 2022. The one for 2023 is going to be released soon, so maybe another time.
At the next Python.
Exactly, that's what I want to say. So all of this work is only possible because of the work of our pipeline and TD department that have been working with us. So few information about, first of all, Rodeo and what we believe. There is important pillars that we have here. For any employee at the studio, company culture is really important, and we want to make sure that any department you feel like you're part of Rodeo and that we are all in the same ship at the end, really trying to build the best VFX show in the industry. So first of all, we are trying to be creative. We do believe that any department, you can be creative, no matter what. It can be technology, artistic department, but even in the recruitment department, always finding new way of recruiting or approaching people. So that's something really important, to always trying to be creative and also always to think out of the box. That's something we are really making sure we are constantly being up to date in terms of technology and new opportunities to create VFX shows. We're also trying to be collaborative. In a such fast-paced industry, we need to work together. Otherwise, I can guarantee you that it will not be possible. So all the departments at Rodeo are only, as I said, one goal, just to do the best VFX show. And we're always going to try to work all together to make sure that we can do it on the best way possible, but to make sure also that everybody at the end feel that they really did something on the project. And finally, be positive. Again, it's a fast pace, but it doesn't mean that we are not continue to smile and being happy about that. Most of us are really passionate about this industry. We really thrive to being there. So we are always trying to keep this energy and to share it between everybody inside the company, because we do believe that's how we can go higher in terms of production, but also in terms of opportunity to create. So in terms of expectation, even if it's a client, an employee, or anyone inside the studio, we also have the same expectation. It can be the strategic values that we have, because we also want to work with people that are sharing these values. Otherwise, it will not be possible. But that's really important that at Rodeo, we are also focusing on the same. So we have different expertise because Rodeo FX is doing VFX, of course, but we are also doing other, we are also presenting other, we say, industries that are really related to the VFX industries. So first of all, as I said, VFX film episodic, so with different shows that I can show you later. But for example, here, a little bit of the work that we did on the Guardian of the Galaxy, who was on the theater a few months ago. So here are the few movies and TV shows that we worked on and that we're gonna work that are currently in production. So Guardian of the Galaxy the Third, Blue Beetle, John Wick 4. We're gonna just see something really quick after because it's really impressive what RodeoFX did specifically on this movie, and a few other shows like Rebel Moon. One of the shows that I'm really waiting to be able to see as soon as possible. So yeah. So here, quickly, some of the work that we did on John Wick 4 on a really specific scene who was shot really differently. Consider that we can have like the view was just, oh, sorry, I'm missing my word. You're gonna see the difference, but it's really something that RodeoFX worked a lot on it, and we are really proud about how we achieved to do it. So for the TV show, same, a lot of images, but for TV show like we are, and we worked on The Witcher, Monarch, who just came out recently, Ring of Power, that are particularly in love, and Sandman also, for example, and Foundation, some of the work that we did and that we are currently working on. So we're gonna just watch also quickly a demo about Blood Origin. We worked just recently, it came out like this year, and here the work that we done. Finally, RodeoFX is also doing advertising and experiential. So as I said, we're not only doing TV show and movies, we are also present in the advertising industry, like experiential. The best that I can think of is recently all the visual effect who has been made for the band center was made by Rodeo. Now, if you're going to the band center, it's not they are not the same anymore, but for a long time it was us. So here too, real about what we are doing in advertising and experiential.
Oh, and it's like the pipeline in advertising.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forget. So the pipeline in advertising, we are doing post-production, production, experiential, and audio also. Okay, sorry. Yeah, just pass, Kenda. We're gonna go.
I can pass because it's a video, but it's all the projects that we done for advertising and experiential. We are working on some cars, advertising, brand, and things like that.
So yeah, as I said, RodeoFX is doing production and audio. So we are trying to bring the VFX expertise that we have in every industry that is really similar or related to our core industry. So thank you, everybody. I hope it wasn't too much demo reel for you. I'm inviting you just to go to the bar if you want to chat, discuss, and I hope you had a great moment.
Yes, let's just get finished up.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for
Oh,
Paul? Yes.
Yeah, so
What strikes me here is I'd like to know what advantages there are in your stack compared to using a tool like Autodesk Flame. I imagine you have tremendously more versatility. Is there anything else that I'm missing here, or?
So
I can.
Yeah, because
Do you want to come here?
probably too technical for me.
So just to be clear, Paul is from the recruitment team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the IT recruitment.
You did a very good job.
Thank you. Hi, so I'm Julien. I'm head of development for the pipeline team. So managing the developers at Rodeo. So your question was, what's our stack compared to using Flame? As Brian showed you, we are using Flame, but we are also using like 20, 50 other content creation tools. So the point is that Flame is used for one specific thing by one specific department, but we are using a ton of other stuff that Flame can't really do. And that's the whole point, is to achieve that. We need all those other software for all those other artists and specialties and departments. And that's why we're building pipelines to just glue together all those different pieces of software to conform the data going from one software to the other, because they don't talk the same language. They don't use the same data format. So we need to conform and chew the data so that one artist can just do the one thing he's good at, which is doing creative work for his specialty, which might be modeling, which might be rendering, which might be compositing and assembling everything. But we don't want them to do all the technical steps, which are publishing, naming, transferring files from converting files from one format to the other. So that's why it's not just one DCC, and it's hard to do this, to do that on one artist really talented can do all of that, but on a much smaller scale. But one person can do that, but not with the amount of data we're pushing through the pipeline, not for the 20 movies at the same time, or the quantity of data we're pushing through.
Sorry, I think there was a question here first. Yes, did you have a question? No? No, there wasn't a question here? No, okay, in that case, go ahead.
No, I don't know much about this. So by any chance, are you using any game engines like, let's say, Unity or I guess Epic?
That's a really good question. So Unreal and Unity, we're using it a little bit right at the beginning of the pipeline. So technically, we showed you the production pipeline, which happens after everything has been shot on stage, in studio or in set. But before that, we have a previs department which is contracted by directors to see how they can shoot the movie, or to have a better idea of how they can plan the shooting. And for that, we have a previs department which is working with Unreal, because it's much faster to iterate. They can do everything in a single software, and it allows them to have a creative discussion with the director. So director asks them to change the camera, they can do everything into a single software and give the director really quick results. So we're definitely looking into bringing more of the real-time technologies into the big pipeline, but there are a lot of restriction. The data, again, is really, really different. It's getting closer, but the game engine cannot eat the same amount of data we're pushing through our offline pre-calculated pipeline. But yeah, we're definitely trying to, those two worlds are merging.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Any questions online?
No.
Yannick?
I do not see any questions online.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, you had a question.
Are you guys at all involved in production as well, or is it still kind of two different worlds, where is the shooting and you just get whatever you get?
More or less, actually. We are not producing any images, but we have two different teams of developers. One which is closer to the artist and the artistic departments. We're working on hands-on on the tools that are used daily to the artist. And we have another team which is more in the back end, which is dealing with the pipeline as a whole, and they are the tools that are used by every artist in the company. So when they push the publish button, all the converting and the data transformation happens without having them to do anything ideal. But yeah, so we have artists, developers which are more involved with production, and some more at the back end.
Any other questions? No? Well, thank you so much
Okay.
for stepping
Thank
as well.
you, Julie. Yeah.
Okay, well, in that case, we would like to say thank you so much, Rodeo, for hosting us. And thank you so much, all of you and all of you online, for coming to this event. If this is your first Python event and you want to continue coming to our events, please do go on Meetup and also on the Python website. There is also the PyLadiesCon, which is coming up. We're always happy to have people at these events.
Oui, c'est ça, je voulais juste rappeler que pour les ateliers de samedi, on a des places comme limitées, mais là c'est vraiment full, mais on a vraiment les places limitées. Si vous êtes inscrit et vous ne pouvez pas venir, ben, juste aller annuler ça pour qu'on puisse prendre d'autres personnes. Puis, ben c'est ça, en janvier, on va avoir élections, fait que si vous voulez vous impliquer, ben, attendez les détails. Ben sinon, il y a la pizza qui arrive, il y a encore la bière, plein de bière. Je ne sais pas si on peut rester ici jusqu'à 3-4 heures du matin, mais bon.
Yeah, so, in case you didn't get that, pizza and beer over there.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay. Thank you, everybody online. Thanks, Yannick.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Yannick.